It's summer in Central Texas. We're already in the 90s and it's just the beginning of our hottest season. We live in a shed to house and we've built 2 of them in the last 5 years. How do we keep them cool? Let's get into it. Right now we're standing in our studio. This is the second building that we've put on our 7 acres in Central Texas. I'm Kelly, this is Bo, and we started Shed to House way back 7 years ago.
It was 2017.
When we were living in our city, like our suburb house in Katy, Texas. So all of this is the perspective of people who are probably a lot like you, but maybe you want to go a little bit more simple and considering a shed to house. So that's why
alternative living, mortgage freedom.
Yeah, just something that is less financial burden to carry. And that was our big motivation for doing this. So when we were building our shed to house, we had so many options. We could run a central air and heat. If you're in the north, some people don't even have AC, and I just don't even know what that life is like. But when we were looking into the type of cooling we do in these houses, we went away from a central AC because it was gonna take up our ceiling space. And just as far as living in this alternative type of home, we wanted something that made it feel as large as it could and that was really efficient. So we had a couple options, and Bo really ran the whole plan with laying the options on the table. If you've ever met someone who is like spreadsheet nerd, meet my husband. They would be great friends.
So Kelly is right. We did not choose central air and heat. We went with the mini split. And why did we go with the mini split? So let's kind of go over, this is like a full-on review of us living here for almost 6 years and our experience with mini splits. In a small house, you are really limited to all the space. We've seen a shed to house, like a tiny house. I think this was probably a 16 by 40. And it did have central air and heat. But they had to dedicate one of their lofts, like on one side, fully for the central air and heat. You would have to have the power of that system to blow air from one side of the house all the way to that other loft. So in our case, if we had the kids living over there, they would not have had any kind of airflow on that side of the house. So then we went to a church that had open ducts.
It was like an industrial look.
Yeah, it was kind of...
Exposed ducts.
Exposed duct, yeah. It was kind of neat. It could have worked, but it would have taken the entire center.
It's like almost 3 feet when we thought about how would we brace it.
Yeah, it was just like, it would have just been a kind of an eyesore. Like we wouldn't have been able...
It would have run down the highest point of our roof.
Fans would have been weird. There's a reason why you see a lot of mini splits in these tiny houses, these shed to houses, more than central air and heat. Yes, we're in Texas. It's not like New Mexico where it does get very hot, but then it gets cool at night. It would be fine. If you're just hot and sweaty during the day, you can deal with it. You can shower, and then you can have that cool weather where you open a window and you get that cool breeze at night.
No one is opening windows here at night. It's just too much.
It's just hot. It's super duper hot.
Yeah.
So you have to have air conditioning. Modern, yes, my grandparents lived here. Did your grandparents live in Texas always?
I'm glad I was born in this day and age of air conditioning and ice makers and freezers.
It just came to the mini split is the best thing because what it can do, like right here, this little guy right up here, this is the interior head. And then with a mini split, you'll have an outdoor unit, which is very similar to a central air and heat unit. It's not as big as like a big central air and heat.
In the house is not only larger, but the way that our space is divided up. 2 closed off lofts, 1 downstairs main living space, and then our bedroom. We didn't use just 1 head. We have 4 heads and 2 units.
Depending on the layout of your house, we wouldn't even have needed 2 outdoor units. We went with a company called Mr Cool. We'll talk about them in a second. Most of these mini splits will be able to run up to 4 different interior units, like different rooms.
Yeah,
spaces. And whenever we started, mini splits were kind of like a newer thing.
We were so cutting edge.
Now they're everywhere. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. They're
We've
everywhere.
gone to Airbnbs where that's their main way to heat and cool, because instead of installing the large unit we were talking about at the beginning, these mini splits make it affordable to heat and cool large or small spaces.
So mini splits, great option for any kind of small space.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's a great option even for a normal traditional house. A lot of people put them in a converted garage so that they don't have to get like brand new, HVAC guy to come and run air conditioning.
Yeah,
there.
that
It just
duct
works
in
great.
there.
Yeah. One thing to remember about mini splits, especially Mr. Cool, which is what we have, we'll talk about that in a moment, is you can run your air conditioning and your heat off of these. So it does get cold here in Texas. We did need a way to heat the home, and it was the easiest thing to do versus having like a wood burning stove or something like that.
That would not work for us.
Yeah, but the bad thing is the heat runs off of electric and not like propane or natural gas. So that is one downside, the fact that you're gonna have a higher electric bill in the winter months versus a traditional home can heat with natural gas. So why did we go with Mr. Cool?
The disclaimer is that these units were sent to us for free by Mr. Cool. We just started with our main building, the larger building that's our primary living space. So when we got them, we had never experienced one of these types of heating and cooling, because this was our first time building a house ever.
Then for the studio, again, fully transparent, I reached out to Mr. Cool again, and they allowed us to be sponsored again for a free product of their DIY unit so that we could get the experience of installing it ourselves.
You're probably coming to this video because you want to know pros and cons of mini splits versus other heating and cooling. So let's start with the pros. The number one pro for me is that this takes up no space. In a small home, you don't have a lot of room for like HVAC or even a water closet for your water heater, which is a totally different video that will blow your mind because we have the most amazing water heater. Side note. But I love that this just goes here and we don't have any other indoor space that is taken up. It's the same amount that would be used up by a shelf.
I think they look not ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think especially, I don't know, I like the design of this newer one more than our other ones. The maintenance of it is you do need to clean out the filters, and that's not hard.
I actually think the pro to that is that you don't buy new filters.
That's what I mean, yeah.
The filters are completely reusable, and that was sort of the sell when we first got this. They're like a greener option. You have less waste when we're using these. You have more energy efficiency, and I do think they're really efficient. The one time of year that these struggle to keep up with us and children in and out of the house all day, us going to do chores, a large space that we live in, is when it's 112 degrees outside. So I feel like if that's the only time that these struggle, that's a pretty good deal. I've also really liked pairing these with a fan. So in our younger kids' rooms, it's a very large space, and when it feels like the AC isn't quite pumping to the other end of the room, we took a box fan that my kid loves. It's this big. It's like 12 inches. And we just set that in front of the AC unit. It's right by a dresser. So the fan sets on the dresser in front of the AC unit, and it just pushes the air extra on those 110 degree days. It is so easy. And I would say the maintenance is not overwhelming.
Remember to clean out the filters about once a month, but doing it is not hard, and like you said.
Yeah, what does it look like to clean those out?
They're super easy. You just pull them out. In fact, I actually have a couple of extra. This is what it looks like. You just pull this out from like here. You just whoop, pulls out really easy.
It's a good sound effect.
Thank you. You take this. I just put it underneath the tub, and it just washes all the dust and everything out.
Yeah.
And then you shake it off, kind of wipe it with a paper towel. You put it right back.
Yeah, the primary mess with these is just the filter. And it's less regular maintenance than if we were using the filter in our own house. And the cost is not there. There is no extra cost to rinse out your filters. These have been 5-year filters in our main home. So, and their wear and tear is 0.
Yeah.
There's no tear on this. And compared to what we were having to do in our main house in Katy before we moved here, we had to special order those filters because they were such an odd shape. So that's something I really appreciated about these, not just to only sell you on the pros. And then...
Because there's a negative.
I was going to say, and then I'm going to let Bo take the negatives because he has so many negative things to say on any subject.
It's a tough thing. So one of the reasons why I would like possibly for our next house to be a larger home is so that we can have central air and heat. That's the con. Mainly because we have not had the best experience with our overall mini split experience. Because we've had some mistakes with our install for our main house, I want to give you some tips after this, after I go over the cons, but our mistakes have caused a lot more different issues than you'll probably run into.
Yeah.
So one con that I know, and this is of Mr. Cool, this interior unit here in our studio, the interior head, it started leaking coolant. It just stopped working. It would stop heating, it would stop cooling, and I kept on having to call our buddy who's an HVAC tech, and he would have to come out and put more. And so he got his little like machine, beep, 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 and he saw that it was leaking.
Wow.
So where?
Right here in the corner.
Okay.
If I test anywhere else, it doesn't really pick it up, but just right over here. Every time.
Mr. Cool, a pro, is they sent us a new one under warranty.
Yeah.
The warranty of 5 years is really good.
It is.
I will say that. The warranty for Mr. Cool is very, very good. So that's the con, that broke, but yet it was covered under warranty. So not...
It's an inconvenience, not an emergency.
Exactly. So another con is if you don't clean the filters on a regular basis, totally on me, but a lot of the times that's a normal thing. It's different with the central air and heat. All of that gunk, all of that dust and everything that is picked up with the filter, for central air and heat, that gets kind of like stuck in the ducts.
Yes, exactly.
So you can go out and you can clean those ducts years at a time. For a mini split, it gets stuck right here. And so there's a little like spinning fan inside of there. And if you don't clean the filters often, that can really build up over time.
It just gunks up.
It gunks up. It can shoot stuff like this dust stuff out. It makes the unit work harder. It makes the unit very loud. Like our kids sometimes don't want to sleep in our main bedroom because ours is a little bit louder. It's kind of like
give it a little maintenance.
Yeah, and the cleaning of that fan in there is not easy. You got to get some kind of like brush in there. Otherwise, you got to disassemble the entire thing. So
yeah, so the filter maintenance is like the most important thing. But I honestly think that's the most important thing even in HVAC. It's like in all the thousands of things you have to do, especially on a homestead, regardless of chores, you still really need to do that about once a month, every 6 weeks, depending on how hard your AC unit's working.
Let's go over some tips. And I would say the first tip, you need to know this. For some reason, we hired a professional who was super bad. I would just say dumb. I'm sorry. There's just no other way to say this. If you're a pro and you say that you can install these mini splits, you should know how gravity works. How these things work is it builds up condensation. Just like any kind of AC, it drips. That's how it cools. It builds up condensation. You got to get that water out. And how these mini splits are is it has like a little hose that the condensation builds up in the machine. It's like a cup size full, and then it's gravity, and it goes out that hose and then outside, and then you drain that out to your outside into your yard or something. This guy installed it backwards. I don't know how he did it, and then he came back and tried to fix something, and he never told me like how bad he did it.
So just so bad.
The install was so bad. It caused a lot of issues. water was pouring into our house.
Yeah, it wasn't this unit, but basically it was coming down this flap, this open space into the house instead of spilling into the drain and then down and out.
So cups and cups of water. We would have to turn everything off if we wanted to go to the grocery store. We couldn't take any kind of vacations. Like, it was our biggest livestock pet.
Yeah.
That whenever we would go we wouldn't go out of town in the hot summer, like in the hot part of the
amount of stress. Like, if you're a kind of person who really likes checking things off lists, you feel peace of mind when things are in order. And when things aren't out of order or aren't in order, it spins into chaos with all the other things you still have yet to do. The amount of time that occupied your mind was worse than the actual problem.
It occupied my mind because it wasn't occupying anybody else's mind.
Yeah, totally.
You cannot go out of town for a week and come back to a flood in your house.
Well,
that's would have happened.
Yeah, like, and so what would have happened if we weren't there to maintain it is that water would continue to spill out because that cup continues to dump and fill up, and then it would have just run down our walls. It would have run potentially under our flooring. Like, this could have been a really, really big problem if we weren't here for it.
It would have been gallons of water in the house if you properly install it and go straight out from that, like, just install it correctly for that condensation to go out and down. That's the next tip. Don't try to get creative with that hose.
Yeah, you don't need to like fancy run it somewhere.
It can't run 90 degrees. It can't go 45 degrees. It needs to come out and straight down.
Yeah.
There is it has to have gravity. Just bring that hose out and straight down. I've tried. We had to redo everything, and I didn't want it to go into our outdoor shower. Nope. That was a dumb move. We have it over here at our main house, our back door, and how we installed it. It really can't go straight down because of how we designed the door. And I thought, it's kind of like at a little angle. We can just do a little angle. Nope. It needs to come out and straight down.
Yeah, so that almost turns into a pro. I know this sounds really stupid, but I hope our mistakes help you a lot, because once Bo fixed that, now on our main unit into our living area, that primary head never drips. It never has a problem. The water just needed to drain where water was supposed to drain. However, finding that qualified tech is just so important. I actually don't think it would be that hard now compared to 5 years ago, because so many people are installing these. In fact, when we installed this Mr. Cool unit in the studio, it's a DIY kit compared to the ones that we first got. And I would definitely recommend people looking into putting this in. If you're gonna get a kit and you're any kind of tempted to DIY this, only go with the DIY kit and be part of that install, because knowing how this works helps you maintain it and troubleshoot so much more easily.
Kelly says that we've never had problems. That's still not there yet. There's still more tips, because I'm the one who has to do it. Even if it goes out and down, that hose is going to run on the exterior of your house and then down into your yard.
Right.
If a bug or something makes a home in there, or grass or dirt clogs it up, that water can slowly build up all the way up and then work its way back into your house. It happens. It's an easy fix, but you do have to get like a shop vac and like shimmy it up and then grab and suction it and then suck all of that moisture out.
What are some of the things you found in our mini split hose?
Oh, I mean, I don't know.
We found frogs.
Oh, yes.
We found just like algae gunk.
Well, and so there's been a lot.
He's like, I won't even list.
I'm used to it now. It's just part of the routine.
Yeah, I'd say even so, we're still much more reactive than maybe the average homeowner would be. We don't have like on the 5th of every month, we schedule to maintain our units.
No, I need to be.
And even so, we don't have a ton of problems after we fix those very primary issues. So in conclusion, class, 100% I would do this again. I think a mini split in a shed to house is just a really smart thing. I even have friends who have sheds that they've turned into like food storage, and they have mini splits in there to keep it cool, almost like a root cellar. I just think it is advantageous. This would be a good glossary word for today. It is advantageous. It is a great decision to put a mini split in your small home. I love it. I would do it again 1,000,000%.
If you had a traditional home, would you go mini split or central air and heat?
Yeah,
If you had more space for ducks.
I would say in a traditional home, I'd probably go more central air and heat because I wouldn't have to go fix the AC in every little room.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have to go in and adjust the temperature in every room. However, most HVAC is not running into your garage. And if I turned my garage into a studio or an art space like we plan to do with our kids, I'll run a mini split in there. It would make total sense.
It's perfect. Let us know any questions you have down in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them.
I hope you guys are loving the idea of shed to house. I just think it's so creative. It's such a timely thing where people are worried about how do I live in this current economy? Ask us your questions. We want to be that person who's just gone a couple steps ahead of you, and we can give you encouragement or wisdom that we've experienced.
Now I want to be able to give you 2 resources that are super important. If you're in Texas or Mississippi or some of the surrounding states and you're looking to get a shed, but you don't really know how to start and you really want some extra support, we would love to be able to help you. We are representatives of a company called United Portable Buildings. United Portable Buildings actually made this studio that I'm sitting in right now. Our main house needs a lot of work. It just wasn't built to the quality that United Portable Buildings builds. They are a sponsor of our Shed to House group and of this channel because they are the best. They are the best in quality and customer service. That's why we have partnered with them. And so we can be able to handhold you. We'll be able to talk about all the design stuff that you want for your dream shed to house so that you can really live that small house, big land life. And the other free resource I want to give you is down in the description below. We give you our SketchUp and our PDF blueprints of our house. So if you can actually take this and you can say, I want this house and I want to change some of these things up to your shed dealer, or if you want to bring it to us, so that way we can get you started on that small house and big land life.